everybody, let's try this again. Let's start doing a little regular resin talk and conversation on Friday, and we'll call it our Friday resin lunch break. It's lunchtime here on the East Coast, so it might be a good time to kind of just take a moment and let's talk some resin. So today I want to show you a little bit about what happens when you use the wrong colorant in a quick curing polyurethane resin, and actually polyurethane being the key component to that. So as some of you might have seen a few minutes ago, when I went to uncap my hardener to the polyurethane resin, it was actually, you know, kind of almost resined onto the container. This is how incredibly moisture sensitive this stuff is. It's just the little bit of hardener that you don't wipe off of the threads when you put your cap back on is enough to react with the humidity in the air and cause it to start curing. So I generally try and wipe this off, but obviously I didn't do a good job this last time I used it, and it doesn't take long for this to happen. So what you got to do is have your handy dandy pliers ready to take the lid off of this. Okay, so when it comes to curing, or when it comes to coloring polyurethane resin, you have to use colorants specifically designed for polyurethanes. They're incredibly moisture sensitive, and so if you want your stuff to cure, you've got to use stuff that was designed to color it. Whereas with epoxy or even some polyesters, you can kind of get away with some other stuff that maybe you just wouldn't with polyurethanes. So I've got a little bit here today, and we're gonna mix in some food coloring so you guys can see what happens. All right, so I got my part A, my part B, and then let me pour in a little bit of food coloring. I'm going to take my gloves off for this because I just want to have food coloring. So this is just a little bit of standard food coloring you can get from the grocery store. In general, food coloring does not work very well to color resin because the amount of liquid that's in the food coloring for the amount of color you get, it really adds a lot of moisture to your castings. So even with epoxies, assuming it does cure, which it may not because resin hates moisture in general, even if it does cure, it's going to cure soft, it's going to cure rubbery, and it's going to be easily dentable. So I'm going to put a little into the resin side. You can see nothing really much happens, but let's put in our hardener. Okay, you start to stir. Okay, so we're just gonna let this sit for a minute and then wait for something fun to happen. So this is a quick curing polyurethane resin. When I say quick curing, I'm using the Alumilite Amazing casting resin today. It is fully cured in 15 minutes, cured to demold in 10, and when you mix this stuff together, you got about a minute and a half to 2 minutes to use it. So I don't know if you guys can see, it's already the cup is starting to warm up, and you can see how it's starting to bubble. And see how it's like it's rising up in the cup. I mean, it's kind of like we've got, oh, there we go, even better now. So you see we've got all this stuff coming off of it and all this bubbling. That's not good. We don't want that to happen. So basically, I mean, this stuff is just seizing up in the cup, and you can't use this. So while it's kind of cool to watch, we've just wasted some resin, which I don't mind doing in the sake of learning. So this is what happens. This is why it's really, really important to use colorants designed specifically for polyurethane resin. So this is kind of neat. Okay. All right, guys. Well, if you have any other questions, if you're watching this on Facebook, you can come over and leave a message. I'll be happy to answer it as best I can. If you're on Instagram, by all means, send me a message. And what do you say we do this again next Friday? So if you've got a particular topic that you want to hear about, let me know, and I'll do my best to see if we can't talk about it. If not, maybe we'll just sit around, talk resin, and take your questions. So thanks everyone for joining in today, and let's do this again.